Today I messed up by letting my toxic family back into my life. They're completely unaware that I won the lottery several years prior. So some backstory. I am the youngest of 5 children, and we grew up in absolute poverty. My mom loved having kids, but she didn't work, and dad didn't make enough to support everyone. I was poor enough that I remember as an 11 or 12-year-old receiving a single plastic slinky and being absolutely thrilled I got anything. Growing up with that kind of family was rough. Parents got divorced, and dad lived locally, but didn't really do much to try and be a dad. Just support financially when legally necessary. And he let it slip once to me that he never really wanted kids. He just loved my mom, and she wanted kids, so we went along with it. Obviously, with this kind of dynamic and the lack of resources, home life wasn't great prior to the divorce. I was helping fix drywall at like age 5 because we could only afford to live in crumbly, run-down houses. I remember stripping paint with a steamer and putty knife at about 6 or 7, and only learned recently that the house had lead paint. My oldest siblings did even more housework and probably inhaled a bunch of lead dust and toxic substances. Couple that with the emotional abuse of our parents, and they didn't grow up to be good people. My oldest brother had anger issues and got kicked out of college for fighting people. He also got arrested a few times for stuff involving theft or violence. My oldest sister struggled with substance abuse, got arrested a few times for it, and even ended up involuntarily committed for 72 hours once. She's doing a lot better nowadays, but still she's an unpleasant person. My next brother went on to just be an employee at a large chain store, where I think he might be a manager now. All 3 still live in the impoverished town we grew up in. My next sister and I are close enough in age that we're very similar. We both joined the military to escape the poverty trap of our hometown. I joined the army, and she went to the Navy. Even at about the same time, while in the service, we both pieced together a bunch of things about our siblings and parents that made everything clear. It was like we both had half of a connect-the-dot puzzle that made no sense. And when put together, the outcome was a big sign that said, "Everyone in this family is awful." She confronted them about it after her military contract ended, and kind of got dragged back into the drama all over again. She moved to a city near the hometown about 1 hour away and started working there right away. I cut everyone else out of my life. I haven't spoken to most of them in years, and the others are cursory or obligatory in nature. After my contract ended, I started college using the GI Bill, which not only paid for my tuition, but also paid a monthly housing stipend so I can focus on my school. My family hated that I was basically getting free schooling. I could never explain that it meant giving up 4 years of my life for active duty, and I had to drill every month in the reserves, and part of my body is permanently wrecked. To them, it's just an unfair advantage. While in school, I had a habit of buying a lottery ticket every month when the GI Bill hit my account. It was borderline superstitious, as I never had any notion of winning anything, because I remember a statistic once that said men in California have a higher chance of actually being Brad Pitt than winning the lottery. During my final semester of college, I did end up winning the lottery. I didn't win screw you money by any means, if you know what I mean. I won the type of money where you could pay cash for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with 0.36 acres in the country, where housing prices were below the national average, and then have nothing left. Yes, it's specific because that's exactly what I did. I never told any of my family, including my cool older sister, because as much as I love her, she would almost be obligated to tell the rest of the family. The purchase of that home happened when I was 25, so 11 years ago at this point. Since then, I got married and I had a kid, and I've had an all-around nice and pleasant life. About a year ago, my oldest sibling was going to be near where I lived for work, and she wanted to visit so she could meet my daughter and catch up. Against better judgment, I agreed, because my wife wanted to know more about my family, who she had never met before. My sister was staying with us for 3 days before she had to go for her work stuff, and spent the whole time just reminiscing and catching up. At one point during dinner on the second night, she asked about what mortgage must be like, since she paid $900 for rent or something much similar, and with no yard. My wife scoffed briefly, unaware that my family didn't know about my financial windfall. My sister, though a troubled individual, is no dummy, and picked up on that. Her tone shifted from casual to serious and asked, "What does that mean?" I'm not great at lying, improvising, or doing anything without excessive planning. I sat stupefied while trying to figure out what to say before my wife said, "Well, he used his winnings to just buy the house," thus setting off the chain reaction of questions that culminated with my sister finding out I had made 6 figures for free while attending attending college for free, and getting rent paid while not doing anything. She was absolutely livid and left for a hotel. About 2 hours later, the phone calls began from every member of my family, accusing me of cutting them off so I wouldn't have to share this gift from God. The sister I even got along with got angry at me for keeping a secret, but she understood that it would have put her in a bad position of lying to the whole family. My phone, email, and wife's phone began blowing up for the next week while family tried to get money from me, not understanding that there wasn't any left. They kept saying that they're about to file for bankruptcy because of debt and I could save the family, but I'm just being selfish. After a week, lawyers got involved because my family started threatening to sue for damages for everything wrong in our family. And in fact, they eventually did file. Every single thing that could even remotely justify going to small claims court or a full lawsuit was brought up. They even added up an estimated amount of gas money I borrowed since starting to drive at 16 with verbal agreements to pay you back later, taking into account inflation and current gas prices. Everything together they asked for would have just been short of buying another house in cash. I'm able to post about this now because I was about to get 90% of it dropped for being absolutely ridiculous and showing that a lot of their claims occurred during a time when I had no contact with them. Thank you phone and email records. The remaining 10% of what they wanted was stuff that happened when I was 17 or 18 years old, like denting one of their cars or injuring them when I threw an empty beer bottle and leaving a permanent scar where glass cut them. After lawyer and court fees plus paying damages, I lost a bit more than $10,000 to my family. The stress from the legal battle affected me at work, and when it got out that I was being sued by my family after winning a lottery, all my coworkers began asking for help financially. It got bad enough that I had to request a transfer to a different branch where nobody knew me. Now I'm having to sell my home I bought where my daughter was growing up in and move to a more expensive city where the other branch is, all because I let my family back into my life. This story is crazy. This person has incredibly toxic people in their life. I completely understand why they cut off these people from their life and decided to try and live their own life. You think you have a great setup, you can live your life and do your own thing, but this person's family dragged them down so far. I mean, how entitled do you possibly have to be to try and stake claim over someone else's house, home, and money? This is a classic case of somebody's too lazy to try and change their future, so they go after somebody who actually has. And it doesn't matter that it's because of lottery winnings. They still worked very hard to get where they're at in life, and they did everything they could to get away from these toxic people. I'm so sorry they had to go through this, and I hope they find the best of luck moving forward in a new town, in a new city, away from those toxic, entitled, terrible people.
The full version of this video is on the Am I the Jerk YouTube channel, so check the link in the description for it. And if there are any updates to this story, that's where they'll be. There is also a podcast version of this show on Spotify, Apple Music, or whatever you use. Just search Am I the Jerk. It's perfect for those of you guys that use Spotify or whatever platform you want to listen to podcasts while you're driving or on the bus or drawing or planning to take over the world. So go check out the Am I the Jerk and Am I the Genius podcasts on any of those platforms.